All right, another cool design feature of this little guy is the Schrader valve here on the front. It is on the filtered side of the system. And before I go into detail about this, I just thought about this now. There's something you need to know about a Schrader valve. And by the way, this information comes directly from Bridgeport Schrader, the people that designed that. The valve itself, the element there inside, is only intended to seal the system long enough for you to put a cap on it. The seal is ultimately intended to be from the cap. Now, there's some custom pieces in here that this is built out of to be sure that it's compatible with all fuels. So for instance, we don't want to stick a big piece of copper in there and let ethanol tear it up, or methanol. And so the valve and the cap are designed to keep this thing from leaking no matter what fuel you might be using. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is that should you lose this cap, I don't want you to spin a little piece of shit plastic cap on there. I want you to call us and order a new cap. Because this way we can ensure that the system will not leak, assuming of course that you tighten it, which I hope that you will. But I want to repeat that, do not replace this cap with any other cap. It's cheap. We're not going to bend you over to sell you a new cap. Call us and get a new one. Anyway, now that I've got that warning out of the way, this offers a lot of practical usefulness. So let's just say, for instance, you have a nicely checked valve system in your car so that it fires up immediately because it maintains fuel pressure after you turn it off. So the last thing you want to do is to try to spin this cup off when the system's under pressure, right? That's not going to go your way. And so you need a simple way to relieve pressure. So, you can crack one of your AN fittings and let it puke all over the floor, which would not be cool. You could spin the cap off the Schrader valve and poke that pintle with a screwdriver and spray fuel all over the engine compartment and the shop and anyone standing nearby to relieve the pressure. Or you could use this little guy, this plastic piece that we send out with the filter. This is another piece that we make here. It has an O-ring inside, and it's designed so that it presses down on the pintle to open it up. So as you thread this on, the first thing that happens is that an O-ring engages to seal this up, right? Then when you get to the end, it depresses the pintle to relieve the fuel pressure. And now there's a hose barb on the end of this, which I hope you can see. And again, I don't expect you to see all these details clearly in this video. That's what the website is for. However, spin a standard 5/16 hose on there. I'm sorry, I said spin, didn't I? Just plug a standard 5/16 hose on there. When you spin this thing on, once it engages the pintle, it relieves fuel pressure into a bucket or a beer can or whatever you're using to hang on to the fuel that came out. And so that's, in my opinion, a pretty handy device, because I have been that guy underneath the car cracking AN fittings loose to relieve pressure in a system, and there's just nothing fun about that. So that's one area of usefulness. Now, the other thing is that many racing series want to check to be sure that we're not cheating with our fuel, because who would ever do that? I know I wouldn't, right? And they require a port to get fuel out of the system so that they can test it. And so this will double to do that same thing. Get your hose on here, feed it into their bucket or however they want to collect this stuff. Simply thread it on, turn on the pump, pumps fuel out. It is filtered, by the way, which I don't know if that matters to you or not, but it may be helpful. Turn the pump off, spin this off, put the cap back on, you're good to go. Now, the third place where this may be useful is if you have one of the older, well, I don't know if I should say older, they may still be common, the Schrader valve fuel pressure gauge. Schrader valves were common on the fuel rails on some of the earlier Ford fuel injection. I'm not sure how common it still is, but I know that an awful lot of my mechanic friends still have those gauges with a Schrader fitting on it. Same thing here, spin the cap off, spin that on, monitor fuel pressure to check for any problems, whatever the case may be. And there you go. So one more handy little practical, useful feature on this cute little filter.